was shaped like a cat. It was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. Desperate by day and by night, rants and rages at the stars. God bless the beast in me. You caught me playing, Mikey.
I did. It had a Mr. Rogers feel to it. I was like, this is kind of nice.
It's a Nick Lowe song that Johnny Cash recorded towards the end of his time on this plane of existence.
Johnny Cash did do some interesting songs. He was a good songwriter.
He was a good songwriter. He was as good an interpreter.
Yes.
You know, you think what he did with that song, The Beast in Me, when you hear him do it, it's so written for Johnny Cash to do it, although that's not, of course, why Nick Lowe wrote it. When you hear his version of Hurt or
Hurt, right.
It's transformative, you know. His spirit was timeless. His essence, what he brought to music was timeless.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea of, you know, Philip says nice opening. He likes that opening. Maybe we should start with music all the time, right?
Well, if I get a voice back, it was a good morning. I sat at the piano and sat through some really awkward things my muscles felt like doing until I convinced them that we should be doing this singing thing. And so I spent an hour pre-show singing, and so I was able to pick up a guitar and sing low like Johnny Cash.
Oh, that's nice. So I was thinking of the Nine Inch Nails song, right? Because, you know, it's a great song, good lyrics, but you're right. When Johnny does it, all of a sudden, I mean, it takes on a different meaning.
Well, he's got the gravitas of an old
Right.
man with a drug problem.
Right.
You know, he had endured major drug abuse in his life, so he knew whereof he spoke in ways that Trent Reznor, I mean, he obviously knew. He wrote the song, but he hasn't lived to be an 80-year-old former junkie looking back yet. And when he does and sings it then, his version will have that gravitas.
Yeah,
certain.
no kidding. The perspective of a young person who's talking about those things, knowing that,
Well,
you know,
the same thing with like Johnny Cash did John Lennon's In My Life.
did he?
And now I've always loved In My Life. It's one of my favorite Lennon songs. But here was a 27-year-old, 26-year-old guy writing about the places and the people I'll remember and the things I've done in my life at 27, 28 years old. Johnny Cash did it when he was in his 80s. And when he sings it, and he of course sings it an octave lower, and there's a real depth to it. You wish Lennon could have been alive to have heard that version.
Right.
Because, again, the gravitas he gave to the moment with the spirit of his lifetime in every syllable of those lyrics was quite something.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? Yeah. You know,
We're off to a heavy start, Mikey.
yeah, no, I was trying to remember what is some of the lyrics of that particular song? Because I do know, you know,
In My Life.
in my life,
well,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Johnny's version.
There are places it's coming to me now.
Places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places had their moments for people and things I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because suddenly, now that I've kind of put context to the song, so that's that one that was in the middle of it's kind of in the middle of his journey with the Beatles. And
Well, that
point,
was like on Rubber Soul.
Yeah, I mean they weren't at that point.
Song.
Yeah, they were being a little more introspective.
But he's literally 26 years old writing the song.
Right.
And it's beautiful. And 26-year-olds most certainly have a right to look back. I sang that song at 26, looking back at the places and people I'd remembered and loved and lost. But when Johnny Cash sings it in his 80s, there's a depth to it that is quite moving, is all.
Yes, kind of interesting. I'm trying to. Oh, you know what we were talking about was the power of words before we kind of jumped on air today, and you had mentioned that dyslexics actually might have an out on marriage, right? I mean, if they.
Well, you know, as I mentioned at the top of the show, and as I've mentioned a few times in my meditation,
in my life, I'm sorry.
in my life, in my meditations in the morning. I wake up at 5 and I do my exercises and I meditate. And I listen to lectures by Ram Dass or Thich Nhat Hanh or Alan Watts. And kindness is something you easily, we start meditating, you go, wow, man, I could have been a lot kinder in my life. It just would have been more convenient for me and them, It would have been nicer guy, whatever. Forgiveness is a lot tougher. Because, you think forgiveness, yeah, man, but forgiving that motherfucker. And then you realize, I still got some work to do. Okay. But I started thinking, I was meditating on forgiveness this morning. And my second ex popped into my train of people that I needed to forgive. And I thought, maybe she was just dyslexic. We got married. I said I do. And she said I do. But her brain was thinking, do I? Really? So how can you can't get mad at dyslexic people?
No.
You'd be wrong. That's a physical challenge that they have. She meant do I? That's fine. And then of course, there are people who often say things they don't mean. And I could have been one of them.
Right.
There's space for forgiveness there, is what I'm saying, Mike.
There is space for forgiveness there. Yes. If we just work on the words, just the words alone, we'll probably.
If I'm asking the band to forgive their bandmate because she has to poop when they get on stage, then I clearly should forgive someone who had dyslexia and meant do I.
Right, clearly.
That's I'm asking them to forgive. I need to be forgiven.
I need to be forgiven. It makes me wonder, where does he have that song in his little list of, what is that, like song 1020 in my life?
Oh, we're not talking about Jonathan Priedus now, are we?
Sorry. No, but
the ranking
it's
the
the
Beatles,
Beatles.
show. Okay, I know we don't have many listeners, and God bless y'all for being here. The 5 of you that follow us and will follow us through the summer. I hope we're not down to nobody by the end of the summer. But it's been fun, and you've given me a chance to work my voice. It's given Mikey a chance tonight to visit. But anyway, this ranking the Beatles thing is going to last way beyond our show.
Oh, yeah.
And it has no right to last way beyond our show. Because our show makes people happy. It makes them laugh. We're like the Seinfeld of the vlogging world.
Yes,
we're talking about nothing.
About nothing.
We're making people laugh. And here's Jonathan Priedus, who I adore, and who's taken a sacred subject to both he and me, and has just defiled it. Choices. Besmeared it with the ranking the numbers of a wild honey pie way above the long and winding road. I mean, here's a young man. He's still a very young man. He's 20 years younger than me. He's got the world in front of him, and yet somehow his life is over. It's hard. We're going to have him back on the show and talk about ranking the Beatles.
Yeah, because we've obviously not gotten over this yet.
No, we haven't gotten over it. I think you're going to have to be the one that reaches out to him, because I don't know that I could calm myself down enough to do it in a friendly manner.
Well, that's why I've intentionally stayed off of his show for a couple of days. I got to catch up, but then part of me
you see, I caught up with a couple of episodes. Yeah. And so it's not easy, man.
You're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to.
It's not easy.
So let me see. Look up the number is ranked above
Somebody
Hey Jude.
Email Jonathan Priedus right now and tell him he is being ranked.
Yes. Yeah, let's rank him. God dang it.
Somebody hit him on Facebook and say you're being ranked, you ranker.
You
ranker.
Son of a rank. Sorry, guys.
Now his wife Julia brings an innocence to their Ranking the Beatles project, because she's much younger than me and did not grow up a Beatles fan. She grew up with her generation's music. Jonathan, I love him. He loves the Beatles. He absorbed it and all that stuff. But it was really great fun both times I did the show to sit with his wife, because she's the co-host, and have her reactions, because he was dismissing Cry Baby Cry, like, oh well, it's this and that, and I'm just like, how do I like this guy? And then she joins in with, hey, it's my first time hearing it. I thought it was just a fantastic song. And then because she's his wife, bang, shut him down, baby.
Yes, he had to suddenly read.
I looked a lot smarter all of a sudden.
You're like, I like you, kid. You and I.
Oh, I love that girl. She's a beautiful girl. Wonderful girl.
Wonderful
Don't
girl.
deserve her. You dirty
Nah,
rat bastard. You don't deserve
she's too good a people for
you.
you,
You beetle ranker.
Beetle ranker. You know, that was interesting, right? That she's running along and she just never heard this stuff before, really, and she's
Oh, I
kind of
love those moments, man. Like me, she might have heard the hits or whatever, but I was on for an obscure tune from the White Album, and her reaction to it was really pure and sort of worth even listening to the interview because here's a grown person reacting intelligently to what people debate as whether or not it's a major song, and in her mind, it's gorgeous.
right.
It's just a
Well, I
brilliant bit
think
of
that's the
song
thing that we've
record
talked about
review.
this before. Like melodies and stuff come to me first, and the thing about that song is it's just a beautiful melody, right? It's just it's and then the way that they recorded it, it's very sparse, and then they kind of and then it has that sort of middle section where it kind of goes sort of old English, but
Yeah, well,
even though
he has.
go ahead.
He has a fascination with those old English writers. There was the writer, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He was a British, he really liked Lewis Carroll and the Alice in Wonderland stories, but there was another British writer wrote a very famous phrase, "'Twas brillig and the slithy toad did wamber and wimble in the waves." And it's total nonsense. And he was in love with that stuff as a boy, as a child. And of course, taking acid and that stuff coming back to him, he really sort of reinvented that genre, quite owned it, through the mid
Hmm.
60s period with songs like I Am the Walrus and All You Need Is Love and
And Cry
uh,
Baby Cry for that matter. I mean, obviously,
Strawberry Fields and Cry Baby Cry.
right.
And then went a very direct route, which for me was again a forerunner to what became great American rock and roll. His last Beatle lyric was "I want you, she's so heavy," and his first solo lyrics are very direct. Mother, you had me, but I never had you. We're Claire's hero, something to be, and that became his path was to be as honest and raw as he could.
Right.
And I feel like that influenced writers like Lou Reed and certainly
Oh,
Springsteen and
absolutely. Yeah.
the guys that wrote directly human stories.
Did the Lewis Carroll thing come up in your conversation?
Probably had less to do with King Crimson's lyrics.
Yes, yes. But the Lewis Carroll in particular for that particular song, because it is like an Alice in Wonderland type song, I
Well,
mean,
it's very much taken from the nursery rhyme, "Sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 4 and 20 blackbird baked in a pie. When the pie was open, the bird began to sing. The king was in the counting house, counting out the money. The queen was in the kitchen, making bread and honey." Now, he used it in Cry Baby Cry as the king is in the counting house. And then he used it again in the song that he wrote for the song that came, Cleanup Time. It came out on Milk and Honey after he died, but it was "The queen is in the counting house, counting out the money. The king is in the kitchen, making bread and honey. No friends and yet no enemies, absolutely free. No rats aboard the magic ship of perfect harmony." So he really
nice.
had a fascination with that nursery rhyme and really had a wonderful, of course, incredibly inventive mind of reinventing that classic English nursery rhyme not once but twice, and in two different contexts. One with the king counting the money, and then 30 years later, 20 years later, with the queen counting the money, which in fact Yoko was doing then.
Right, right, right.
So even though it was nursery rhymes, he was making it very personal.
Yeah.
It's what he did.
I was just wondering if any of that kind of, because that, you brought that up and suddenly it made some connections for me. I was like, holy shit, wait a second. I didn't, I had not put that together before, and putting that together makes you sort of look at it a little differently. Like, dang. By the way, good morning, everybody. Thank you. We kind of didn't say good morning yet. Today's Friday, Lou Day. He's not
We
around
didn't
yet.
say good morning, did we? We just started running. We
Just,
just ran.
just ran out there. We were in the middle of a conversation. He the
I
moment,
think
y'all.
I might have posted that it's Wednesday today.
You might have.
I do that often. I do that very often. It's quite something.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to go look at that version. I don't know if I've heard. You know what? I have heard him do that version of
You
"In My
haven't
Life."
heard Cleanup Time?
No, no, I was talking. Mr. Blue is talking about Johnny Cash's version of "In My Life's" on YouTube somewhere. You guys
Ah,
can
good.
wait.
I avoided the day. I said it's a beautiful day, and that can't be denied.
That can't be denied. It actually, but it's warm this morning. It's it's been
You
so
see,
cool.
my wife walked out the door yesterday to go to work and said, "Oh, it's so warm," and I just went, "It's Polly time," because let me tell you something. Warm is good. You ever watch the old '80s movie with Michael Douglas saying "greed is good"?
Wall
That's me
Street.
with warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me with warm. Warm is good. It's good for the customer. It's good for the people. Warm is good. You wear less clothes. You don't even need shoes. So my friend Shoeless is completely at home in the world. Warm is good. You can take off clothes and be more comfortable. Cold is bad because you put on layers, and sometimes you put on so many layers you can't move, and you're still cold.
You know,
Warm is
it's
good.
yeah. You know what's interesting about that analogy is I think I like the cold because of the layers. I like to wear my thick
Yeah, you see,
skin.
spoken like a true New Orleanian. You know,
No, no, no. I'm
we
not even
like the
talking about the
cold.
temperature. I'm just talking about the idea of hiding from the world, putting that skin
The idea
on.
of, but again, spoken like a true New Orleanian, because we experience the cold in very short spurts. We experience the cold as traveling musicians and technicians who go to fly places and it's cold and it's cool. We get to wear our cool clothes and we're nice and wrapped up and people don't have to get too close to us. And I remember I've told the story, but I'll tell it again. My first winter in New York City, when I was 26 years old, I was going to work and I had my trench coat, Goodwill trench coat, and my Goodwill bebop cap and my scarf, D.H. Holmes scarf. And, I was looking slick, and I'm saying to the guy I'm working with, "Hey, man, this cool weather's nice. I get to wear all my cold winter clothes. When's this cold snap end? We get some warm weather." And he goes, "What the hell are you talking about?" I'm like, "The hat." I'm looking at myself. I dig it. I'm looking good. "When does this cold snap end? We get some warm weather." And he goes, "I don't know, Paul. April if you're lucky. Most likely May." And I got walking pneumonia my first winter because it's not cool to be cold.
Uh, I was
It's not.
one of those. I think it was probably 2000. It's been a few years. There was some horrible snowstorm that came through New York. I know they probably have them just about every year, but this particular one was an overnight thing. All the air lines shot up. It was, I think they were 13 feet. I think there was like 13 feet of fucking snow outside. Like getting outside, people had to cut their ways out of the doors, and it was an overnight kind of a thing. And we had to get to the airport in the morning because we had played a
Right.
gig the night before. And yeah, that was kind of like you couldn't walk down the side. Even going down the sidewalk was because it's snow drifts and then the cars and then there's slush everywhere.
Oh,
It
travel
was
shut down. And
yeah.
and while we're talking, my sister Sandy Sanchez McKinney, text my oldest sister, who I love and respect, texts in, "I'll take snow anytime." Now, my sister at one point in her life lived in Minot, North Dakota, where in the house, and I don't know if her daughter, Gretchen, and her son Lee know this, but the house had, and I got this information from my mother, and so it could be a total lie. My mom was a great storyteller, but she was an excellent liar. The house had a door on the second floor. For midwinter, when the snow got so high, you couldn't get out the low level. You could get out the top level.
Oh,
And I think that living like that made my sister Sandy, who I love dearly, slightly a little off center because she writes things like, "I'll take snow anytime." Yeah. Her children are beautiful. Her son Lee, very successful engineer with the Stennis Center. Her grandson Trent. I went to his graduation party. He's studying theater at LSU. So proud. But my sister, I don't know if she ever recovered from 2 stories of snow. And I think when she talks, I just have to go, "I love you. It's okay."
that to me is crazy, right? So you got a house that you're used to going in one door, but in the winter,
Used to going in the first floor is where
right,
you go in because
right,
that's where most people go in their houses.
and then this all of a sudden one night you wake up the next morning and you go to open that door, you can't open it. You're like, okay, I guess we're going out the other door. So you,
Which begs to the question, do you go out with snowshoes?
it's a good. I know. I wondered the same thing. Did you just plop down to She's saying it's true.
See, so that's not for me. Warm is good.
You don't want to have to go out the upstairs
I'm going to
window.
learn the greed is good speech and retransform it into warm is good. And then that's going to be my testament.
I see that Luis is joining us. You want to say hi?
Louise can join in for the speech.
All right, Luis, you joining in for the speech, buddy.
What speech?
Oh, Lorelai says it's 47 degrees in Chicago. Is that true, Louis?
Yeah, it's pretty much there. This whole week's been up and down. But wait, it's not guitars. I'll put my guitar away. I saw Paul with his guitar. I just
Yeah,
got
well,
a
if you
little
want to play
jealous.
for us, if you want to play
No,
for
I
us,
can't play. I don't know. This is me bluffing. I can't play any.
That was a good bluff, man. We were going with you on that one. You
I was,
thought we were going to tell you to stop,
I
right?
was, I stopped. I was like hoping you guys would
okay.
just take over, and be like, "No, dude, you're not the musician in this thing,"
I think he's got a
But
speech. I think he's got a speech. Are you getting your speech ready?
okay,
I
let's
just
just
want to say this is for the people like my sister who say they'll take Snell anytime. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that warm, for lack of a better word, is good. Warm is right. Warm works. Warm clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of evolutionary spirit. Warm in all its form. Warm for life, warm for money, warm for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind. And warm, may you mark my words, will not only save whatever the company's thing. You get my point.
Yes.
You replace the word warm for the words greed in Wall Street, and you got something.
Yes. So what is it? Is this another commercial? Or what is that?
Yes, you can, sister. You're just too shy.
She's not
listen.
built that way.
I'm gonna defend Sandy here. I'm gonna defend Sandy and say, well, for number one, snow and winter are two different things. All right, you can appreciate the winter, but sometimes there's too much damn snow.
Sometimes it can be
And
too much damn snow.
so, like,
Luis,
I appreciate a good winter, but when the snow just keeps you in, I mean, Paul's
you
seen on my Facebook
appreciate.
before. What's that? Paul's seen on
I
my Facebook
understand.
before where there's a cartoon of two guys up to their neck in snow, and one guy tells the other guy, "At least we don't get hurricanes." Right? So that's
Yeah, yeah.
so.
That lasts a few months. Winter lasts forever in Chicago. My two wealthiest friends in Chicago, Connie and Ted Regas, gorgeous apartment on the Chicago River, which I've stayed at many times and had parties at many
Yes,
times. They've taken us on boat
yes,
rides on Chicago River on private boats. And one day, just kind of like going to bed, midsummer, great party, hanging out, drinking wine late with them. I sort of went as I'm going to my bedroom. Say, so what do you guys? You have all this great fun in the summer. What do y'all do in like February when it's cold like this? Do you have people over? They looked at each other, they bust out laughing, and she said, "We order in," and he said, "We rent a lot of movies." That would be fun. So that's one way to live. It's not my favorite way to live. And you've seen me right up there in March when you're dressed in a sweater and I'm in a overcoat and a hat and a scarf, and you're laughing at me, and I'm going, laugh all you want. I'm warm, and I'm going to stay that way.
Well, you know what's funny is if you go
yeah.
to Phoenix, you could be warm 8 months out of the year, the dry heat.
Yeah, that's too. That's hot. That's too hot. And it's a dry heat. And so I think I was in Phoenix. I think I told the story, but I was rollerblading because I like to rollerblade in every town when I was in Cowboy Mouth. And we get to Phoenix, and I'm pop on my rollerblades, going to go work out some tension. I'm flying down the street, flat street, because Phoenix flat, and whoo, man, I am blading my ass off. I'm good, man. And I'm coming back towards the bus, and I'm not, and I notice I ain't even breaking a sweat. I'm gonna push it harder, and I'm pushing hard because I'm not even breaking a sweat. I'm in such good shape. I'm a nice and fit rock star. And all of a sudden, I get a little dizzy, and the world starts spinning, and I skate to the side of a building. I can't even see anymore. I skate to the side of a building, and I just grab on the side of this building, and I start hurling. And I look up, and I'm in the window of a really fancy Mexican restaurant, and the whole place has stopped eating and is just going. And I just sort of waved and skated away.
Well, it's funny
But anyway,
because had there been current times, everybody would have had a camera out taking pictures. They
Yes, you
just
wouldn't have escaped that. There'd have been some video.
he
right.
would have been
So I
YouTube
don't know
famous.
how did we get onto
Everything
that
would have
subject?
gone
What were we
viral.
talking about? Cold.
Cold.
We were talking about the cold.
Phoenix, but we talked about
Yeah.
Phoenix. You could be there. And, um,
By the time, like, anyway, so welcome, Luis, to Superhero Wrap
Well,
Up.
thank you.
I
I
know
mean,
that
yeah, I mean, it's
your boss
being
doesn't.
47 degrees in Chicago. I do have iced coffee going this morning. For my new favorite
Cielito
place,
lindo.
Lito Lindo. So, there's actually, people know Lito Lindo because whenever you go into a Mexican restaurant, there's always somebody actually there playing that one song called, everybody's like, ay, 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 ay. That's actually the name of the song, Solito Lindo, right?
What's that
And it
song
actually,
about?
Well,
What is that
oh,
song?
dude, they have like so many different translations. It's a Mexican folklore song, so to some people it means something different all the time. So the actual translation, the real translation, it means like, like beautiful heaven. Celito is actually like ceiling, right? So, but you go a little bit deeper in the. I mean, like I told Paul one time, I said the best Mexican breakup songs are written over a bottle of tequila, right? So, and in this situation, whoever somebody was really smitten when they wrote this song, but it also means almost like my little pretty word too. It
When I
rough
was living in
translation.
when I was living in Belize, the owner and I would drink together, and he would teach me. I said, I want to learn some Mexican songs. So he taught me Solita Lindo and Cerca del Mar. And so I'm
Nice.
sitting out singing Solita Lindo and Cerca del Mar by the pool, getting drunk. And the secretary, who's a bit older, more firm woman, she comes out, she goes, "Those songs are for drunken cowboys. Learn something decent."
You know, that's all you needed, man. That's all I would want to learn. Shoot.
That's why I
I'll be
wrote
honest.
my own,
So,
you know.
but here's the best part. My sister's in from Germany, and I took my sister to Salito Lindo today, and everybody very much speaks Spanish at this cafe. And on the way out, my sister goes, "Listen, if you're gonna fancy that place more," she goes, "you better brush up on your Spanish, man."
Nice,
And I thought of you
nice.
guys. I was like, man, that was just cold blooded, man. That was super cold blooded. But no, that's family. You gotta get any more honest in family, right?
I
No, no,
was.
So
there's
anyway,
nothing.
By the way, I've been enjoying Pan's Labyrinth, but I have to take it in smaller doses because I get tired reading. Believe it
well,
or
yeah,
not. I mean, I can read a book all
dude,
day, but reading the screen,
about to say that. Yeah,
yeah, reading the
I was gonna.
screen, it's like it's a context that you miss when you're reading, like because then you have to go back and kind of check out the context of what's going on sometimes.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, dude, I have problems with Where Waldo books, and you're over here like reading novels like in weekends, man. I mean, I'm impressed.
So
But so
we're
you
going to
like it
talk
so
about
far?
Highlander.
Okay, okay.
Highlander. We're
But
going to talk
first,
about
let me since it is superhero review, right? I do want to send a shout, and especially since it's Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
I am going to put a call
Is
out to
it?
my friend Doug. His father, who was a Marine. Doug was the guy who made the Mach 5 in all of our cosplay pictures.
Right, right.
Right? He's
The
the one
Mach
that made the
Five
Mach
is
5.
awesome.
It's a year anniversary of his father's passing. He was a Marine. Leon Eugene Sanders, great guy. Just sending a salute out to them. And thanks for everybody who served in the military, man. I mean, that's something more than I would have done. So, thanks to every those guys. And those are also real superheroes in my book. So that's why I just wanted in there first. But yes,
Very
Highlander.
nice.
I I read up on it, and yeah, they're doing a reboot, and they want to use Superman for it. Now, as we know, Paul
Okay.
doesn't like Superman. Well, not the
You know,
character, but the
it's a,
actor.
well, if I could see
Oh,
the
hey,
guy
cool.
in something, there's your friend.
Fancy, huh?
Yeah,
Look at that. I pulled that up pretty
that's
quick.
great. That
Pretty
was.
damn
I'm.
So,
fancy.
I'm.
well,
I'm
well,
shocked. Yes.
before I start on Highlander, since you honored a couple of folks, my wife's father Zeke, she hangs a flag for him on Memorial Day, and my uncle Dick and my uncle Andrew and my uncle Warren all served in the big one. So, here's to the veterans, and to one of the veterans I'm personally friends with, John Boutte.
Yes. Yeah,
Nice.
also, yes, John Boutte.
So finish your story. What were you saying about the? Or did you finish already?
Oh yeah, no,
Okay, we
just
start with him. We start with that guy. Look, has that guy been anything where I could see his acting beyond him with red coming out of Superman's eyes, destroying people like he's Darth Vader?
Are we talking about Are we
Like
talking about
more
Superman?
like he's Kylo Ren. I shouldn't give the
yeah, we're
guy
talking about
dignity
Henry
of
Cavill.
comparing to
Yeah.
Darth Vader. He's more Kylo Ren than he is Darth Vader.
So I hear, from what I understand, I haven't seen this movie. But there was a what was the one? God damn it! It was one of those English TV series, and a
The Man
spy.
from Uncle.
Yeah, the Man from Tomorrow, Man from Uncle. So
Well,
I heard that
I
he's
can't
really
imagine.
good in that.
Does he
And
have any wit in that?
yeah, yeah, I heard that he's really, really good in that. And I like The Witcher. I think the story of The Witcher is actually really interesting because it's based off of all these old Nordic.
I think what could make the movie work is I think this kid needs some old school lessons in gentleman from an old school gentleman. And so if they cut in real new footage of Henry Cavill with the original footage of Sean Connery, I think the movie could work.
Yeah, we were trying to discuss that. Who gets Sean Connery's role, right? I mean, like, because that really was even back then, that was the movie, right? I mean, it wasn't the sword fighting because that was awful. We talked about this earlier. Like, the one thing, if you watch Highlander now, based off the action we're used to seeing now, and you look at it, it's like, you have to be there for the plot, which is great, and the way that they do it, because the fighting is awful. It's like, I told them, it's like a bunch of guys, they put on a bunch of outfits and said, just swing at each other. And you can see them just swinging at each other. They're not even, there's nothing about it that looks real or makes you, there's no drama in the fight scenes. There's this big 10-minute collage at the end, and they're just spinning around with their things. They're not coming near each other. It's obvious. There was insurance.
Did you ever hear about what happened with the whole Mustache incident with the Justice League movie?
No.
So when they went to go reshoot the Justice League movie, and
For Joss Whedon.
Yeah, with Joss Whedon, they needed to redo scenes with Superman. But the thing is, he had because I think he had the mustache from the Man of Uncle, right? I think
it wasn't. It was the movie that he played a villain in one of the Mission Impossibles or something like that.
Okay, so he had a mustache, and they wanted him to shave off the mustache, and the current movie was no, you're not going to shave the mustache. You get your actor back for reshots, but he's not going to shave his mustache. So you'll notice in a couple of scenes where the CGI is over his lip, where they got rid of the mustache from Superman.
I know that stuff. I can't find that stuff. People talk about that. Every time they show me a shot that's supposed to be that rubbery thing, I'm like, come on, guys, it looks fine.
I think I've heard enough about this guy. And I think I want to let y'all talk about Highlander alone while I get a beverage.
You go get a beverage.
Okay.
I think I've heard enough about this guy. He shouldn't be playing superheroes. He should be playing strictly villains.
Well, he's good at villains.
Okay. Well, now that Paul's away, he's supposed to be Captain Britain in the new Marvel movies. He's supposed to be, they're eyeing him for Captain Britain.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's funny they would pick him instead of a British actor.
Isn't he British?
I don't think
he's
so.
Australian.
Huh?
Oh, he's one of the two. But yeah, no. So I mean, it should be fun. I mean, everything gets rebooted, right? Everything from the 80s, 90s, everything's getting rebooted.
Yeah, we've known they were going to reboot Highlander at some point. Everybody's been talking about how do you reboot it? How do you? It didn't make money at the box office. That movie, it made money after. It was one of those ones that became a cult hit on video.
Right, and dude, it's pretty much. It's funny is that. Queen
I saw it in the theater, by the way. I just want you to know, I saw that son of a bitch in the theater when I was in high school.
Well, I was 10, so no.
Yeah, you probably didn't see it in the theater.
I was 10 or 9, man. Dude, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. The first movie I saw after hours as a kid was in 1983. My family took me to go see the movie Firefox with Clint Eastwood, where he steals the Russian airplane.
I remember
I was so excited. That was like a rite of passage. I was like going to a 10 o'clock show. I fell asleep. I don't remember shit about it.
I vaguely remember the first time they took me to something like that and I fell asleep.
Yeah, so I was, so much for my rite of passage, man. But yeah, so because you got to remember, what was actually pretty entertaining was the Highlander TV show. Did you ever watch that?
No, was it any good?
Right, you brought me right back to Highlander.
I thought we were talking Highlander. We hadn't finished yet. You walked away for 2 seconds. Can't you smoke some more?
I thought that y'all were going to talk about it while I was gone.
We did.
I come back and y'all shared some wonderful childhood memories, and I'm about to share that. And I'm brought right back to fucking Henry Cavill.
We don't have to talk about Henry Cavill.
So now I have
we can go back to who's going to be Sean Connery.
Now I have a whole new reason to dislike him. He disregarded the entire Superman myth. He disregarded Clark Kent as a newspaper man, the Daily Planet.
He didn't make that decision. You were an actor before.
I'm just saying, who's this Superman, and then
do you make choices about your act?
Like he's Kylo Ren, and he's all these and then he's got a fake Groucho mustache underneath on CGI. I don't even know what to say about this fella. So I was hoping y'all were going to finish the talk on that without me.
Explain to me, being an actor, Mr. Sanchez, explain to me how you go to the director and go, you know what? This is not how Superman would act. I'm walking. Would you do that?
Tell you straight up. Yeah.
No, you
I'll look Zack Snyder right in the face and I'll say, I'll go toe-to-toe with you on the history of Superman. And if you deviate from the history, you don't know Superman.
What if he says, well, this isn't that Superman?
He came from Krypton. He landed in the West with Ma and Pa Kent. You're not young and sexy.
What's even funnier is we argue about the history of superheroes as if they were somehow real.
Well, not every superhero is.
Stop it!
Obviously,
You know he's going to say there yet.
obviously, not every superhero is real. Obviously, not every superhero is real. Obviously, some are fabricated because it's a nice image. But when you start talking about Superman,
He's real.
There's proof. Well, there's proof.
The UFOs, is that what? By the way, the fucking UFOs. Christ on a cracker.
You can look up article Clark Kent wrote for the Daily Planet. That's probably the internet. I'm sure there's articles he wrote for the Daily Planet. You find them. You find pictures of them, I'm sure.
No kidding.
He doesn't look anything like Superman.
Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, right? You know, this whole dark-haired guy.
No, that was Aquaman, and they changed that for the movie.
And they changed that for the movie. They certainly did, didn't they?
Oh god!
It's like
You
they've
guys
never
ever
seen an Aquaman comic strip.
You guys ever see Dr. Katz old TV show that was like on Comedy Central?
Dr. Katz? I don't think so.
Yeah,
No.
Dr. Katz. So one time they had David Chappelle on the show, right? So Dr. Katz is a psychologist, and he always gets all these comedians on his couch. And in this case, it was David Chappelle. And David Chappelle goes, what is it with all these superheroes? He goes, if Wonder Woman put the lasso on me, he goes, the first thing I would tell her is, you have big breasts. I wouldn't have said that, but now that you put the lasso of truth on me, I'm inclined to tell you that you have big breasts. So I was just like, hey, that's, And he goes, what's so special about Aquaman? He could talk to fish, right? So it's like, so you just see the cartoon like, hi, fish, and then fish goes, hi, Aquaman. And you just like, dang. He just, bashed it real, that was...
You have to admit...
I'm looking up for
You have to admit that was a fun scene that Whedon drew, where in the Whedon version, where he sits on the lasso or something like that, and he just starts talking, telling the truth.
Yeah,
that was very Whedon-esque. It was very Whedon-esque,
That.
Yeah,
I liked it. That was fun. Like Paul
His
said,
stuff's
that's
real
probably
clever.
The only bright side of the whole movie. That was like the whole bright side of the whole movie. But
Right now,
what I sort of touched on last week, was AT&T sold Warner Media.
Not yet.
Right?
They're working on it.
Yeah.
Well, so
you're right. It's probably going to go through. It's probably going to go through. So yeah.
So you don't want to see the two worlds come together?
Yeah, because there's talk about Disney wanting to maybe buy that.
Right.
Yeah, dude. I mean, honestly, as much as Paul bashes DC, I still like them being independent from one another. It just makes two different kind of stories, two different kind of everything. Yeah, I would not like to see that merger happen at all. I just, for me,
Okay, I'm saying if Superman were there to fight Ultron, to fight Thanos, Iron Man might not be dead.
Yeah.
Well, again, I mean, Thanos could have died so many different ways.
Robert Downey Jr. probably would not have even had to leave the farm. He could have stayed there with the wife. Superman would have flown in. He'd said, Iron Man, you're old. You've taken care of shit. I got this. Bang. He'd have gone. Thanos would have been crumbled into little rocks, and that would have been it.
He'd have went and grabbed that Infinity Gauntlet and he'd have shoved it right up his ass.
Oh, right up his ass.
Well, you guys never saw. I have to send you that video where they were talking to Paul Rudd, where they were talking about Ant-Man jumping into Thanos' butt and then growing big from the inside out.
Right.
And just get rid of Thanos that way. And they're like, what do you think of that, Paul Rudd? Paul was like, that's a great idea.
Why did we think of that?
Yeah, it was just, whoop, blows up Thanos, movie over, done.
The funny thing is maybe that's why he wasn't in the first one, so that he couldn't fly up Thanos' butt.
But see, that's the best part about these Avenger movies is that element of being the underdog, right? I mean, that's so hard about following a Superman movie is he's Superman, right? What's the probability that he's going to lose? There's not that, like you mentioned last week about, when Star Wars didn't leave you like, okay, Chewie's dead, but they showed him a second later, right? Didn't leave you with that anticipation hanging. And it's almost the same thing, Superman's going to win. I mean, Superman 2, I like when he got his butt kicked, the old Christopher Reeve movie, when he got his butt kicked in the diner. That was great.
Yeah.
Yes, 3 other.
And then he went,
Right.
and then he went back for his for his revenge. I thought like that was like my favorite scene of the whole movie. You know, it was just and he does the I've been working out. I was like, that's great. That was that was a fun Superman moment for me. You know.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
those are the
definitely.
little things that make up. That's why I like the Marvel movies better. Now, I just have to get this out of the way. You haven't watched WandaVision at all, right, Paul? I think that just went to the wayside.
He's
just
done
like-
with Londa.
But the Mandalorian's so much fun. It never disappoints.
So
So you know what? Just fast forward to the last episode of WandaVision.
yeah, at
Because
some point you might want to just watch the last one.
yeah, just watch the last one.
I make you a promise that before next Friday's show.
Well, you made me a
before the
promise last
superhero-
week.
I did, but then I found out how good the Mandalorian was. So I promise you, I will put
Okay.
time aside to struggle through WandaVision.
Just the last
and
episode.
I'll probably no, I'm gonna
just
do
the
the whole
last
thing
episode.
I want to intelligently converse with you on the nuances of WandaVision that you enjoyed.
Okay. No, but here's the funny part. I talk to people about this show, and I bring up WandaVision, and everybody has the same flustered look like, oh man, but it gets everybody. I mean, it's not the first person. They're like, has he gone through the first 3 episodes? I said, yep. Everybody just doesn't know what to say.
Yeah,
This
I
conversation happened
stopped
last
somewhere.
night.
I didn't make it through 4, and it wasn't like I wasn't enjoying it. I was enjoying it. It was just something came up each time, like I had to do an audition or something. Just kind of came up, and I had to stop. So I've tried it twice, and I'm going to go back to it. But then when I was stopped, I found the Mandalorian. And,
Right.
You know.
One of the other
that was
issues
my
with,
fault.
in my opinion, with WandaVision is that the writers did a great job with sort of putting you in those series, and sort of they did a wonderful job with creating the environments that you were familiar with. But the jokes weren't as funny as the jokes were on the original stuff. I mean,
Right.
It's like yeah, style over substance. It's like, yeah, you guys nailed the look, you nailed the vibe, you missed
It's most like
why these shows were popular, right?
They were trying to sort of wink at the camera and say this is what they thought was funny back then,
Right.
but it wasn't funny.
But it wasn't funny.
Yeah,
Where,
yeah.
when you watch that shit, it was fucking funny. You know, I mean, the stuff they
Yeah.
got set up was
Right.
really funny.
And that's why it's the
yeah.
link to it. I mean, they know they're playing off all those.
They would have
ideas
done
that they
best
had.
to bring in some people who actually write sitcoms, even though they don't really have sitcoms anymore. They've really fallen off compared to what they used to. But they should have brought in some real sitcom writers to
Yeah.
help them.
They should have tried to make it funny. They should have gone for funny.
Right. They could have
So where are you-
the plot is so fucking string bear. Anyway, you could have easily strung along, the hints and whatever.
Oh, that's
you actually did.
exciting.
Yeah.
Knowing that the plot is thin bear is
Dude, put it this way: the stuff that people were coming up with that could happen was so much better than what eventually wound up
Yes.
happening.
Yes.
And it was just like, my God, you guys could have hired anybody on the internet and gonna come up with a better fucking ending to this thing.
No, Mike's right. The whole internet buzz was better. People were, maybe this is going to happen. Maybe Doctor Strange is going to show up. Maybe everything, everybody, and that's what kept people really invested to see what was going to happen next.
Because they really
That's what
believed
made
in
the show-
Marvel. They were like, the Marvel's gonna do it. They're gonna, and then you get to the final episode and you're like, oh, that was it. It's like going to see the firecrackers and everything. You're like, oh, it's gonna be great. And they shoot up one little thing, it goes poop, and you're like, that was it.
And then,
Are we done?
They just had those MTV awards, and they won the best TV show for that.
Because all of those award shows are fucking hype these days. The Grammys are ridiculous. The Grammys are the most non-fucking award-worthy bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life. It's all about who sold the most fucking records. If I want to know that, I'll go look at fucking Forbes. I'm doing this because
wait a minute.
look,
Craig
there's
Kline.
Billboard Awards and there's the Grammy Awards. If you want to worry about fucking charts and money, do the Billboard Awards. The Grammys should be about art.
I do that.
But the Nightcrawlers Award is
No, look, they do. All right, put it this way: it's almost like they have foundations. It's like the stuff that doesn't make money, they don't care about. Yeah, that stuff they pick the art, but all the top awards, the shit that actually comes on TV, is all about the ones who sell records and make money. Period. End of story. End of fucking story. And it's been that way for the last 15 years.
I didn't mean to put a quarter in you, Mike. I'm so
No,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you did put a quarter in me, didn't you?
Yeah, you were all up, man.
Well, I watch it and I'm just like, when I was a kid, I remember wishing that one of these pop bands that I loved would show up in the Grammys. They never fucking showed up in the Grammys. You know why? Because they weren't making fucking art. They were making pop candy that I could buy at the goddamn, and I get it, but now it's like all your favorites. Every fucking you never see that when we were coming up on the Grammys.
By the way, the part of Paul Sanchez will be played by Mike Mayhew today.
Well, and I was thinking about the Oscars too, right? The Oscars don't do that shit, and everybody's always pissed because they didn't pick the most culturally blah blah blah, whatever. It's just like, no, this is a different thing. They better for worse. The Oscars don't always get it right, but they tend to make choices that.
Well, you know what made me laugh? The one I didn't know about, I forgot what I was watching, was the first time they came out with like a heavy metal award. Nobody knew what heavy metal was, so I think Jethro Tull won it, right?
right.
So everyone was going, "What the fuck?" Nobody knew how to classify heavy metal. So I think was it Sebastian? I forgot who, like the guy from one of these heavy metal bands. He went on the next award show and he goes, "We're so glad that Jethro Tull did not come out with the CD this year with the album."
Right.
And I thought that was like the best line. So yeah, to your point, nobody knows how they're quantifying this. Sometimes they're just filling in boxes, right?
No, I know how they're quantifying it now. It's money. And I get it.
Yeah.
The music industry's in trouble. They're trying to make as much money as they can, and every opportunity they get to put it in front of people's eyes, they're going to do it with the ones that make money. I get it.
So let's touch on Mandalorian then. Let's go back to I want to know where Paul is in Mandalorian. Paul, where are you in Mandalorian, Paul?
I'm still in the first season.
Okay.
We've been doing some home renovations, so things aren't what they normally are around here. So I'm still in the first season, but I think every episode I love. I love the characters, the warrior chick who comes with him. She's tough as nails. The older guy who refuses to be in his service, but he'll do favors for him. The shorter character.
That's Nick
I don't know
Nolte.
the creature. That's Nick Nolte.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
Nick Nolte. Next time you hear his voice, listen for it, and you'll hear it.
It's gonna freak me out because I love Nick Nolte. Yeah, that's great. No, I think that I think it's really solid writing and everything. It's great. I'm enjoying it. I'm in fact glad that I get a second season. I'm looking forward to it. It's a real good binge. It's a real good storyline. It follows the conventions in the proper way while making it new and fun.
Yes, and it puts it in that same world, like you were saying. It puts it in Lucas's. It feels like Lucas's
in the
world.
actual original three.
Yes,
in a way that you thought Star Wars was going to be when you saw Star Wars.
Yes,
and then it became. But yeah, when you're watching this, you get the sense the Empire's just been crushed, and you're back in time a little bit, and this is great. This is awesome. This is what I think it would be, except for the whole part where you told me it wasn't Yoda. That kind of took it down a notch. It took me about, I'd say, 3 full days before I could go back and start watching again. Because I felt tricked.
Yeah. What just occurred to me is the original 3 didn't have this sense of pompous that it sort of developed, even with the prequels. There's sort of a sense of pompous to Star Wars, as if it elevated itself. Where when you think about it, those early ones were kind of down and dirty kind of movies, just telling a big mythic story, especially the first one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even Empire and stuff, and the balls of Empire to end without an ending, to kind of end in the middle.
Right.
For that time period,
really
it was like
serialistic. It was very much in the style of the serials he liked as a child.
Exactly.
And so it brought a nostalgic factor in that hadn't been there. And so that was, and then the last one was like, it was awesome. Him coming in all in black and coming back as a Jedi. Everything about it was great.
Yes, and the old, like you said, the gunslinger had that fucking total, but then also had a little bit of kung fu. He had to go and learn his martial arts before he, could come back and be effective. And he actually has to go off and do that, right? He leaves for, we don't know how long between those 2 movies. He's gone for a while because Han's already back at Jabba's hut. They're back in business doing their thing. We don't know how long Luke's been gone. It could be a year, 2, who knows? And he comes back after his training. The new one, they skip all the training, they skip all the bullshit. It's like, we don't have that time for that shit. We got boom, boom, boom.
No, we do have time for unnecessary plot.
Yes. Let's chase this thing that leads us to this thing. McGuffin 1 goes to McGuffin 2, and you need to have 3 McGuffins together in the same room, and then you get to McGuffin 4. It's like, Jesus Christ, guys, what are you doing?
Yeah,
what are you
they
doing?
More patience.
I just saw Mark just ask who's the biggest Star Wars geek of all 3 of us.
I don't think it's me.
I think it's Paul.
I don't know if it's Paul either. Look who's got fucking Darth Vader behind him, Lewis. You've got fucking, look, move your head. Move your fucking head. Who's the biggest Star Wars fan, guys? You tell me.
Listen, man, just because I'm a poser doesn't make me the biggest one.
Busted,
You got to remember,
busted.
Paul's the one that came out last week with. I was in line when I was 2 years old to go see Star Wars when it first came
I
out.
will admit,
And
I saw Star Wars when I was. That's probably the youngest I was
Probably
when I.
16.
Oh, yeah, we
I
both.
wasn't in line. The first Star Wars I went to see 76 or 70, 76 or 77 it came out. When it first came out, nobody knew what it was. I went with like 5 friends and the theater was empty. It wasn't like there was a line. There was this new movie called Star Wars playing at
it
Lakeside.
was a low budget movie.
In the middle-
It was a low budget movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't expect much.
went
I didn't go see it until after it had become a kind of a phenomenon. Remember, it stayed in the movie theaters for like a year and a half. It's the first movie that showed up that just
Yeah,
stayed.
I saw it when it first came out and there wasn't anybody there, but we loved it. We thought this is cool. It was like an old Western, it was fun.
I went and
Now,
saw it. I
the
think I was
Empire
8 years old at the Pit. Remember the
I
Pit?
went with,
Remember
yeah,
the Pit?
It was great.
That's where I went to see
Yeah.
it, Franklin Avenue. And I didn't live anywhere near the Pit, but that was like the only place that was showing it when we went. And there was a fucking line out the door. It was
I
really
used
crazy.
to like the Pit because you had the Pit that had Dollar Movie Night on Wednesday nights in the 80s.
Uh-huh.
They had Dollar Movie Night, and next door was Taco Tico.
Yes!
So you could go in Taco Tico,
Yes.
and then you could go to the movie.
I used to get taco
No.
burgers. They used to make this little fucking, basically it was a sloppy Joe with taco meat. Oh my God, it was the best thing ever. I love that damn thing.
I like the taco burger occasionally if I was in a hurry for the movie.
Right.
Well, you couldn't beat a Taco Tico taco. Come on.
So you,
say that. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you were
can't share
saying-
these taco stories.
you were saying, won't you, yeah, because you came at Star Wars from, you probably saw the prequels before you saw the real movies, right? You're young enough.
No, as a kid, I went to go see Return of the Jedi as a kid.
You
And
did
the
see,
cool thing was, my two eldest brothers worked at Toys R Us back then, so they would get the triggers from me and my brother, right?
so Return of the Jedi, though, is your first Star Wars movie in the theaters? Like, you walk in halfway in the
Yeah.
middle of a story, and, you know.
Well, everything else was on TV already. Back then, we didn't have it was something called On TV.
Right.
And my friend
Right.
Eric in first grade hooked it up, and he invited him to his house to go see Star Wars. We had the toys, right? We knew this was cool,
Different age.
right? Because we didn't have too many other toys at the time. So, Luis, Star Wars on TV, my house in 2 months. Let's go. And then that was amazing. And I didn't get the Ewoks. I was like, even at however old I was. How are these little bears kicking the shit out of everybody? I wanted Ewoks to come out with claws and teeth and go feral on everybody,
They're
but
too fucking cute.
they were too cute.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah,
It would have been really cool if they turned feral. That would have been cool. I never thought of it.
I
They were
heard.
adorable.
I
Adorable.
think this is rumorville, but I think that they initially wanted to have it on where the Wookiees originally lived. I think they wanted Wookiees,
Right. Which would
Instead
have made
of
more sense,
Ewoks.
actually.
right?
But
And then,
I
of
guess
course,
the logistics of having that many tall people and the whole scope perspective. I watched this whole thing on Lord of the Rings, the way they did the perspective between the hobbits and Gandalf. Everything, they're constantly having to set the cameras up in places so they can do perspective, so that he's closer to the frame than they are, so that they look smaller, and then they can't look at each other. Their eye lines have to look at two spots, so it looks like they're looking at each other, but they're not really looking at each other. It just looks that way in the image.
Right. Yeah, no, so I mean, that's why I think they sort of did in those prequels when they went to Chewbacca's home planet.
Right.
Like in the Clone Wars, I believe that's when they went to Chewbacca's home planet, Kashyyyk. I think that's the name.
But even then, they
And,
barely went there. Remember, it was just sort of
Yeah.
they weren't really that involved.
I would have.
So let me ask you a question. Once I get through The Mandalorian, and once I, God forbid, get through WandaVision, I'm thinking of doing the entire Marvel thing from start to finish, but I just kind of did Marvel. If I were to start the Star Wars thing start to finish, would I start with the prequels, the ones that came out later, the 1, 2, and 3, and then the next ones?
Unfortunately, it's a story of Darth Vader. So, do you want to look at it as a story of Darth Vader, or do you want to look at it as a story of Luke?
Well, I mean, I
It's always
think
been
you should do them in order, right? You should do
What's-
the first
Yeah, do
1, 2,
the
3,
order.
and
Do
then
the
4.
order.
The problem is that the tones are so weirdly different. But
I know, but the storyline takes you.
the Skywalker
Because-
family, yes.
So
Go
I
ahead.
mean, honestly, because here's the deal: if you watch the original first three, you're not gonna want to watch
Right. That's not a good reason to watch it in that order, though.
No, but I'm being honest. I can see Paul. I'm trying to get in Paul's brain here. Paul's gonna go, I'm done with Return of the Jedi. Paul try and watch episode 1 and go, what's this shit? And
I've tried
the rest
episode
like
1
WandaVision.
Terrible. Episode 1.
See, that's
terrible.
You know.
All right, there's
terrible.
one moment.
I'll be honest.
There's one moment in episode 1 though that is poetic and crazy. Now, when they do the fight between it's Obi-Wan, that Darth Maul, and then what's the other Jedi who's helped Quinn whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, the music in that scene is called something of the Fates. What is it called? Something of the Fates. Duel of the Fates. It's Duel of the Fates, right? And it's about, because right there, that is the whole story in that fight. Because Dave Filoni explained this at one point. You've got this child that they found who's going to be the next, and then you've got Qui-Gon, who's a father-type figure, who's, ready to take on this challenge. And depending on his fate in this fight will decide how Darth Vader is raised. Is he going to be raised by this loving father figure who wants to bring him into the Force, or is he going to be raised by his brother and this faceless sort of bureaucratic organization that sort of changes the way he lives, the way he's grown up, the way he learns? And so Qui-Gon losing that fight changes the fate of Anakin Skywalker and basically the fate of the Star Wars universe, all resting on that. So that's why they call it the Duel of the Fates.
Wow.
And the music for that story, like John Williams, really, the music for it is ridiculously moves around between evil and...
sharing that. I'm going to treasure that moment in ways I would not have before. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, Dave,
that is as good a place as any to sign off. We're 10 minutes over.
What's that, boss?
Did you watch the Han Solo movie?
I did.
Oh, yeah. I liked it.
So
I thought it was poorly cast.
Poorly cast, but fun. Right.
Yes.
Did you see that Did you ever see the little Easter egg where they had the little golden head from Indiana Jones in it?
No.
So the one bad guy, the guy who plays Vision, he has all of these statues and all these little things on one of his back tables, and as a little Easter egg, they put the statue that Indiana Jones goes after.
No kidding.
In the first Raiders of the Lost Ark at the beginning, where the ball goes after him.
Where he does the...
Look at it again.
Neat.
Yeah, the little thing. So it's like, wow, same episode, same everything. Same world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
You ever saw that scene of Spielberg sitting in front of Harrison Ford, basically acting the scenes that he wants Harrison to do as he's doing it, like doing his hand when he does fucking Spielberg's actually not behind the camera. He's like in front of him, showing him how he wants him and kind of going through it with him as he's doing it. And, the whole thing of taking this little bit of sand out so he can get the weight right and all this stuff. And then the way that he does, Spielberg had the fucking moves down. Like, he had it in his head.
Nice.
This is the way I want it to look.
Nice.
So that's where Guardians of the Galaxy is still the beginning part. That's where Guardians of the Galaxy is still the beginning part. When he get the...
That is Indiana Jones in space. That fucking whole franchise
that was Indiana Jones in space, for sure. Okay, so real quick before we leave, next week I'm going to be on location, all right? And to your guys' point, I'm going to start going into work in September, so we'll see how this works out. But next Friday, I have off. I'm going to be at the Museum of Science and Industry. They have their Marvel exhibit going on.
Neat.
So I already went one time about a month ago, and they have the very first issue of, whatever started out Marvel Comics there. Everybody's different costumes and so forth, and I'm going to see how it times out with this event. So I'll probably call you guys in early or whatever, and see.
You can always do it from your phone. Keith Spear did it while he was driving down the fucking road. Remember? I don't know if you ever saw that.
But, but I don't know how the reception is in the museum.
Right.
They're gonna be like, So keep an eye out for that.
Not to mention the people in the museum are like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Is he on a YouTube show right now? What is he doing?
They're gonna be like, yeah, you can't broadcast. I'll be like, shut up, I can do what I want in here. I've been coming here since I was a kid. True story, man. That's how my father would. He had 6 kids, and then back then the museum was free. So how do you train 6 kids? You take them to the museum. Paul, found old pictures from the party that you did for me 12 years ago now. The picture with you and my mom, that was priceless. Did you see that, Alex?
That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
he didn't go on.
You and my mom. I was like, wow. What's that?
It was great.
I'll send it to you. But yeah, so thanks everybody. I didn't mean to take you guys over, but it's a great time.
Fun.
And saying hi again to everybody watching. You had Phil, Sandy, Mr. Blue, Mark, Lorelei, and Joe today. So
And Sandy, of course, as usual, thank you for hanging out. And yes, we're all going to have a nice, safe, cool weekend. Not warm, cool weekend.
No, it's cold here. So I'm going to be up in Michigan. So I'll definitely see you guys around.
How much of a drive is it from New Orleans to Chicago? What is that? Like, that's got to be like
15.
It's 15?
I do it all the time. It would. So my brother used to live in Tupelo at the
16.
time.
Thank you for that clarification. It's 16. That sounds about right. But go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, some of us go 15. It's
That's
about 15, give or take. You know, listen, I keep it at the speed limit. There's nothing that says otherwise. So it's about 15.
It's about.
That's why I drive out. That's why I always drive. That's why whenever I go to New Orleans, I always drive because I always stay in the West Bank because it's cheaper. So I always drive out to the West Bank, stay there. And I'm not much of a drinker, so fourth is not a problem.
Some people would call it the best bank when you're down here. They're like, "Oh, you're at the best bank. You're going to the best bank."
Yeah. I call it the $50 a night bank.
There you go. There you go. There it is.
All right,
people.
guys. Great seeing you. See ya.
See you guys. We'll see everybody on the what day is it today? Friday. Bye. See you all on the weekend, right? Over the weekend.
Yep. Bye.
Yep. See you on Monday.
Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, I'm staring at her shoulder, but it's not what I see when I hear two fellas fighting in the booth across from me. So I wipe away the ashes from an empty counter seat, and I wished I wasn't homesick, I wish I was asleep.